Okay. Guess we'll see momentarily if it's working on the page. Fingers crossed. Get some confirmation on here. Gonna be inviting Galen on here momentarily. Hopefully people have been getting out and been enjoying your wonderful English weather over there. I have a few friends telling me, oh, we got caps on all the lakes. I just keep reminding people I don't want to hear them complain when over here in Canada we've got some proper caps, 18 inches of cap on some of our waters. Quite crazy. I see a few people dropping in now. Looks like we got about 5 or so people. Anybody drops a comment in there just to let me know that it's working okay, that you guys can hear me all right. Just looking to see. Holy moly, we're up to 6 already. Look at that. Very good. I'm just going to check on Galen's status. Galen was unfortunately held up in traffic a little bit. As per usual, Galen is always a little bit fashionably late. So let's just have a little look-see here, see where he's at. Okay. Still just waiting to see if I'm coming through clearly. If someone could just give me a thumbs up or something just to let me know that the feed is coming through nice and clear and that there's no glitching or anything of that nature, that would be awesome. I might be very well missing out on some of these messages for all I know. Okay. Still just waiting on Galen here. I'll give you guys kind of a rundown as to what the live stream is going to be all about this evening, because essentially Galen and I have been chatting with Palm about it and have been trying to, take a little bit of the pressure off him, to be running these lives weekly. It's exhausting. So we're kind of we're going to try it out today. We're going to try to blaze the trail and just see how things go. Galen and I are going to open up the floor to people that have questions regarding the Canadian fishing scene, whether that be carp fishing or, ice fishing, bass predator fishing, so on and so forth. Galen and I have got lots of experience with that. Additionally, I'm going to have a few questions for him that I don't even necessarily know the answers to, even though we're good friends. So at least one of those questions, I'm really, really curious as to what he's going to come up with. He's got a couple of questions for me as well. And I've taken note of some of the questions that have been asked on the team page post. So I know I got one from James, I got one from Ian Rooker, one from Ian Brookman, and I've got one from Stephen Bryan here. But of course, as people have questions and they drop them in, we'll be sure to get to them. So I suppose while I'm waiting on Galen, the first question I'm going to ask of you guys is, how many people in the stream right now? Oh, it says Galen wants to join. Here we go. There we go. Let's see if it works. Fingers crossed. Let's not have any technical difficulties to kick this off. Come on now.
Hey,
Are you there,
we
Galen?
go. I'm here.
Okay, can you see me?
I can see you. I just need to set this stand up so that you guys aren't just seeing my wonderful face.
Perfect. I was just
So
letting the
bear
folks
with
know
me.
kind of what the itinerary was going to be for today.
Awesome.
Yes,
Just
sir.
bear with the jiggly camera for a sec.
No worries. I can't even see you, so I can't even see it jiggling, sir.
Oh, really?
Yep. I get the feeling this is not just a palm problem. This is a problem across the board. This is a Facebook issue. Yes, sir.
Okay, I can see you,
So
but you can't see me. Weird.
uh,
That's okay.
that's
Well,
a
you can
shame
hear
for you
me.
to have to look at my face, but
Yeah.
hopefully everybody can see both Galen and myself. For those of you who don't know who Galen and I are, we are Team Canada. We are intercore members of Pallatrax, and that means that I don't know, Galen, what does that mean about us, really? What's your position? Tell us a little bit more about it.
Oh, there we go. A little better lighting. Okay, there we go. So for me, I help out a lot with content creation as well as running the Instagram page. Also help out with the Facebook page and the TikTok from time to time. But my main focus right now is building that Instagram page up, which is directly connected to the Facebook page. And then, yeah, we have a bunch of other people behind the scenes, like Rich Shaw helps out with Facebook, and we got Adam and Charlie who help out with TikTok, and then a bunch of other people like yourself that are content creators.
And I'll tell you what, man, you guys are killing it over on the social channels. So thank you guys so much for everything you do with regards to that. How did you get started with Pallatrax, Galen? Some people probably don't know that story about how it all began. So why don't you enthrall us with that story?
Yeah, so it's funny. It truly is funny when social media is used kind of correctly as it was intended. So as everybody knows, I do a lot of underwater filming, and I collected all this film. Like, well, what am I going to do with it? So I started to post it obviously online, and I started with Facebook. And I think everybody's done their time in some of these carpy Facebook pages like Total Carp and all these other massive ones. And I remember posting a video up there, and Rich Shaw messaged me or left a comment, and then we ended up having a conversation over Messenger. And he's like, well, you should really look at the Team Pallatrax team page, because they obviously stones are a big part of Pallatrax, and I hadn't even heard of Pallatrax at the time. Being over in Canada, I get exposed to some, or we've been exposed to a lot of the brands, but I hadn't at the time heard of Pallatrax. So I guess Rich got me in contact with Palm. I put in an application like everybody else and just joined just the team page and posted a bunch of content. And then Palm and I had a bunch of conversations leading up to me actually joining like the core group that provides content. So long story short, I've been around, I think since 2021-ish.
Wow, 5 years, sir.
Yeah, so when I first got my hands on grips and stones and a few other things, yeah, it was the spring SSF, so May of 2021. I think I joined the team page probably in like the winter sometime.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure 2021 was also when you caught that very special fish for a second time. And during that very SSF, which was a very cool little tournament.
Exactly.
For those of you who don't know, Galen and I were both one of the founding members. I would say founding members. We were part of the inner circle of the Canadian Carp Society. I've only recently stepped down from that position. I was working as a news editor, but really wanted to focus kind of on my own fishing and whatnot as well, and to not be tied to the ball and chain, so to speak. So I wanted to have a little bit more freedom, so that I wouldn't be writing newsletters. But I'm a teacher, and I teach my kids not to procrastinate, but sometimes I'd be writing them while in the bed chair. You know what I mean? It was wasn't always ideal. So yeah. Galen, I think it's amazing, and if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here right now on this live stream, because you were the one that got me into Team Pallatrax as well, to join this wonderful group. And I, like all of you, I'm mad about carp fishing. If you can't tell,
Yeah.
We're carp crazy. We're all carp crazy. And I've been carp angling for a number of years now, and I think what's amazing is when you look back and you realize a third of your life now has been spent carp fishing. You kind of take a moment and think like how far that journey has brought you, and all the people that you've met along the way. And I think about you and I, we've been friends. Christ, we've been friends for over a decade, man.
Yes.
Like we've been friends for a long time, and we always used to send each other clips and whatnot, and our friendship was really cemented, I think, in 2020, during the height of COVID and everything. We were keeping our social distance, but you and I and Brendan and Dan, we were all working kind of collectively on what we called mutual benefit swims, where we went in and we baited for each other and whatnot. So even though we were socially distanced, we were still sharing catch reports and whatnot. And you ended up catching a very special fish in the Inverleigh stretch, a fish by the name of the Claw, which was still to this day my PB from 2016. I still haven't beaten it one of these days, I promise. But you ended up catching that fish in the fall of 2020, And then it really cemented this sort of bond that you and I have and that the Pattison brothers have with us as well. We're all very much
Oh yeah.
connected because of that. And, the idea of specimen hunting here in Canada, which a lot of people might find that to be absolutely unheard, that we could actually pursue the same quarry. But indeed, it is possible. And especially some of the smaller waters that we're fishing, landlocked, sort of dammed up waters. Carp aren't really getting in and out of that system, and so you
Nope.
might have a 2 kilometer stretch, 3 kilometer stretch of river, and there's no way in and out. And recaptures happen all the time.
And to be fair, like when I started carp fishing in like probably 2010, but it was more of a thing I did in the spring. So it was like a May, June type of thing. And then the spot was like essentially a big communal spot that like everybody from the surrounding area would come to that you fished and then realize there's so much pressure, right? So you ventured off to do your own thing. And I still stuck around there with my buddies and just it, it, what you started to post and actually show what the potential of the surrounding area was other than that spot kind of inspired me to branch out on myself. And it was kind of almost forced during that COVID time because we couldn't fish in public parks essentially in our area.
Yeah,
So we were exploring a lot more. Now I had stumbled upon Inverleigh and done a bit of time there as well. But again, I was kind of pigeonholed to just these like two locations and hadn't really branched off. So yeah, yeah, you'd pretty much fish every inch of water throughout Peterborough through your guiding and yourself. So it was like, oh, there's actual you can catch from many parts of these river or of the
absolutely.
Tonawanda River.
Peterborough is amazing. It's one of the greatest carp fisheries in the world, I'd argue. So much accessible water, and
Yeah,
we're really fortunate to have public parks and to have little like what we call like public access points as well, not
yeah,
necessarily a park, but public access. So we have quite a bit at our disposal. You have to go looking for it at times. You have to know your sort of look at the land surveys and whatnot. And I guess that kind of brings me to some questions for you, sir. So I'll finish off by saying that when I joined Pallatrax, it was an ethos that I signed up for, and it was a mentality, the idea of leaving something there for tomorrow. And as you and I are still both members of the Canadian Carp Society, we have a leave no trace policy.
hmm,
And you and I both thought, well, let's take that further, right? Let's go beyond just, picking up the garbage. Let's make sure we're not throwing garbage either. And so between the stones, using good quality hooks that don't leave the same damage that microbarbs do, we are 1000% diverted from leads. Both you and I will never fish lead again. You
nope,
know,
no,
it's out of my life. Lead's dead. And so that's what brings us to here today, man. You and I are definitely going to be doing a lot more collaborative work. Our first, and I would say only underwater film together was a complete success, and I think there's just it's going to be onward and upward, right? It's only going to get better from here. So we're very excited to share our content with you guys going forward. So be sure to keep an eye out on the team page. But Galen, sir, I have my tablet, and I have
perfect.
some questions here that I had for you. So the first one, and this kind of has to do with that whole land surveying thing. Um, I'd like you first to sort of tell people your job. What is your career?
Yeah, so I work for a nonprofit organization, essentially it's called the Conservation Authority, which is very similar to, I guess, the UK's like environmental agency to an extent. Um, and my role there is floodplain mapping, but I also assist with a lot of like water quality monitoring as well as invertebrate and fisheries work. So whenever they need somebody and I have time, I'll help. So that's what I'll be helping them with this summer. Because generally my projects are these massive funded projects from the government, and it's usually spaced out between like a year to a year and a half. So there's a kind of a gap. So that's my background though. My background is water quality and fisheries and that type of environmental field. That's what I went to school for. And I'm lucky that my organization kind of lets me dabble in kind of both. So and then fishing's just always been a passion. So it marries well together.
Awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
with that career, right? I know that you've also had some opportunities to do things with aquatic invertebrates. You've had your floodplain management, and you've worked with ArcGIS technology and
Yep.
whatnot. Um, what has your career brought to your angling,
Mhm.
um, due to the intel and the information that you've gathered, that the common layman just wouldn't have access to? What kinds of things have you noted, and how has that changed your angling approaches?
Well, I've been lucky because my dad was a fisheries biologist for a conservation authority for a good part of 30 years when I was growing up. So it's kind of in my blood that way, but it was cool um, getting a job in Lindsay. So I'm about 40 to 50 minutes outside of Peterborough and in the Kawarthas. So it's still uh, the Peterborough's is Kawarthas, Lindsay, it's Kawarthas, still the same thing. So we have a fisheries bio at work. So I'm constantly bugging him for information or um, going out on site. I've been out on all the lakes doing samplings at various times a year, and I've just being watercraft incidentally, essentially, because I'm always on the water, always around the water, so it's easy to find spots and just get. There's a lot of common interest at my work, so fishing does come up a fair bit within the area, so that does help. But as far as like the science goes, we have a lot of reports and just I've over the years just got a better understanding of essentially what water quality means and what indicators of what water quality is and what a healthy system is and um, just in general like the more time you spend outside around the water, the more I guess fish you'll see, the more spots you might find, and just intel that you just kind of pick up over time. So I've had a very been very lucky that way because I've got this like big map in my head with spots mapped everywhere. I have way too many spots to even try to fish.
Oh, I know that pain.
Yeah. So I've
Well,
been very fortunate that way.
and I mean, I'm fortunate too because sometimes I just pick your brain, and we can kind of piggyback off of one another, right? You have the intel, I have the drive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
does also help to have friends that are work for M&R. So the Ministry of Natural Resources, very similar again to the EA, that have my best friend is a fisheries bio for M&R. So that helps. So and his dad was also a fisheries bio for M&R for years. So it's
Yeah, so you've got that
even
foot in the door. You want to ask a question, you want to have it answered really quickly. That's
yeah.
your foot in the door there.
And I
It's
could get
awesome.
kind of the science kind of behind that as well. So and even like the three rod policy. So we're lucky now that we have like a three rod policy for carp fishing, and we were lucky enough with through the Canadian Carp Society and my contact with M&R that we were able to kind of comment a little bit on that policy as it was coming out. And I think we even provided a bit of clarification when they kind of not rewrote it, but rephrased it so it was better this kind of the second year it came out, just to make it a little more clear because it was written uh, kind of jargon heavy and not very clear. And I think they've cleared that up quite a bit with, believe it or not, our input. So that was cool to contribute to.
That's pretty awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just having a look here at some of the questions, and the next one actually is kind of one of mine, but also comes from Ian Rooker as well. We kind of both had the same question, so I'm going to drop this one on you as well,
Okay.
and maybe I can offer an answer too because it's
Yeah.
kind of like towards both of us, but it was originally for you. Was with your underwater videography, what was your biggest observation?
Oh God. Well,
And
one,
kind
my
of like, I guess,
rigs,
like
my
what was the big takeaway, from maybe a session, just observing how the fish were behaving, so on and so forth. What was something that
well,
really opened your eyes?
first off, I found out that my rig I had used in 2020, not exclusively, I used two rigs exclusively in 2020. Well, I found out that that rig sucked, for lack of better words.
Oh
and
no.
and tying it, you really do need to pay attention when you're tying stuff up because I think it was my first time tying it, one on the bank, two in a rush, and of course I put it on camera, and I had uh, nine fish, pick it up, fully engulf the hook and bait, and drop it before I finally hooked up. And just looking at the size of the one that I caught versus the ones that dropped it, I've lost some big fish.
Oh, that's nightmare fuel, that is.
Yeah, so I had a very good discussion with Palm, yourself, our buddy Ben, Dan, all sorts of people try, okay, what, I need to change something. So, and I ended up, it just coincided with that was pre-fishing for our tournament. And then Palm had graciously had ordered a bunch of stuff and it came in just in time. And I used his knowledge to essentially make the LQ rig, Steam Link rig, used it, and ended up winning the tournament. So I did a complete adjustment that worked out in my favor. It doesn't always go that way, but it
doesn't always go that way, is right. But I'll tell you what, man, they speaks for themselves, right? It's not just what's happening over there in the UK. That approach works here, right? And I mean, it's undeniable, right? Like, we've seen the systems work. We know it works.
Yeah.
So, you know, it fits very well into the type of fishing that you and I do, that a lot of Canadians do. It's just trying to get people to divert from leads. The moment you move them away from that, like, I'm still beating my head against the wall, Galen, of trying to explain to people that if you drop a rock in the water next to more rocks, the fish are probably not going to be too suspicious about that rock, right? But if it's a perfectly shaped teardrop rock, then people might have, you know, the fish might have a few more concerns, but it will certainly make the angler feel better. It's a weird kind of mentality, but regardless, I think, you know, it'll take a bit more time, but, you know, we might convince a few more yet.
For sure. And then for yourself, I'm sure you've had some awesome observations with your last year of trying underwater filming for yourself.
Yeah, observation is that it's very, very challenging, Galen. I learned, you know, if you guys go and watch both Galen and my YouTube channels, you'll see my hurdles video on YouTube. And it's called the hurdles because I had to jump over quite a few of them before I finally accomplished my mission. I anticipated that I was going to get it done in under a month, and I was very wrong. And it was very interesting to make those observations and see the fish swimming around. Like, I remember at one point there was 7 or 8 fish on camera, 1 foot away from my rig. They wouldn't take it. And I was just like, but meanwhile, the exact same rig was about 20 yards away, like just a little ways away, right? And they were taking that one constantly. I had 8 runs in 3 hours, and it was all on the left-hand rod that was not in front of the underwater camera. But the underwater camera, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe, you know, I don't know, there could be a lot of hypotheses there, but I think that might be that it can actually detect a bit of an electrical signal, and maybe that was throwing them off.
I've had that thought too. Sometimes
I don't know, maybe it could make it a tick.
It doesn't. Yeah.
It could be like an ultrasonic sound that we can't really perceive, maybe, or, you know, maybe when it goes through the water, a different medium. I don't know what it is, but all I know was that I was in agony throughout from May, end of April, all the way up to September. And then finally I made it happen, and it was magical. Water clarity was perfect that day. Homemade bait. It was one of those moments, right? And so I love it when it all comes together, but yeah, definitely biggest observation for me is that you have no idea what's happening under that surface until you actually get a visual, because in some of those sessions I was watching as basically the carp were swimming around, not making themselves known at all. There was no indications on the line. You know, mind you, I had the line pinned. I had I didn't have a single crash in the swim, which is usually a surefire sign that they're there. Didn't see any bubbling, even though they were feeding, just very, very softly. And I'd say probably if I were to take all of that information and sum it into one point, it's that behavior is a bigger determining factor than what you're running. So the way the fish are entering into the swim, how they're feeding, that is a bigger determining factor, at least for me. It's my hypothesis. That'll dictate whether or not you're going to get a bite. Because I watched many times where fish swam in very slowly, They fed on the precipice and they left. Versus watching fish come in on the dance floor and get competitive, and it's like it wouldn't even matter what was on at that
Yeah.
point. You didn't even need a bait in those circumstances. Just throw the bear hook on the bottom, and they might have picked it up because they were just hoovering, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's one of those things where, you know, when you observed the behavior and you saw it, you went, that makes sense. I see they're cautious. You know, maybe it's low oxygen. You know, maybe they're just coming out of spawn, so on and so forth. So you're watching and observing their behavior, and like, yeah, you could tell a lot, right? You could see why things didn't go the way that you had intended, and if you got a mistake, you know, why did that happen? And it was very interesting. I didn't get a single mixed tape. Dropping mixtapes now. I didn't get a single missed take on the underwater camera, which was really weird. I never had a moment where they picked it up and then I didn't hook them. Right?
Yep.
It was more likely that I was just not going to get a pickup, which was awful. And sometimes the camera ran out of battery before I got the pickup on camera, which would also drive me crazy. Anyways, that's it. That's it for me. That's my those are my observations. And my last question for you, sir, I know you got a few for me, so let's try to get that done by the halfway point here, is what are your plans for filming this year? Are you do you have anything big like that you're going to try to aim for, a goal?
Honestly, the goal that I've been trying to accomplish for the last probably 2 years now is getting a clear day at Vince's. Because I think we can observe a lot of cool fish behavior at his place, obviously, because he's constantly putting feed in, so there's always fish around. And it's essentially created this nice tabletop area that is, it's almost down to clay. Like it's completely moved all the sand substrate, and they've pushed everything away. So it's exactly perfect for filming. The problem is they get a lot of wind coming down the lake, so it stirs up the water clarity. Now, he has done some filming when he first got his underwater drone, and it was gin clear, dead calm, and he had this gigantic school of fish in front of him, right, like maybe 2 rod lengths off his dock. So
I've seen the footage.
Yeah,
I've seen that footage.
Exactly. So I would love to get over there again with all the Canadian guys and do another underwater session. And I think another thing that would be cool to do is similar, is using that live camera, filming our reaction. I always love that reaction. Any of the underwater films where they do the actual live reactions, I like that. I think it's entertaining and it is humbling. So
it's nothing better than seeing me make stupid noises too, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
me too.
Seeing a mirror pick up a rig underwater. Weird noises come out of me when that happens.
Just to get, I guess, more dialed with that equipment, getting more comfortable on camera, probably the main goal, and just try to provide the team and everybody else with some good informational content that will actually assist you with your fishing. And this is what we're using. This is how we're doing it. There's no, you're going to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't care. There's no like motive outside of just showing people what's going on down there, and then trying that all throughout our other areas when we can't get to Vince's, because we're lucky enough to have that clear water. But that's my general main goal. I just want to show people kind of what's going on in front of us, and hopefully it'll help them catch more fish.
It's a noble mission, sir, and I'm always happy to help out when I can, right? So you always just give me a call and say, this is what we need to do today, and I'll be there with bells on, right?
Yeah, it makes makes it a little easier with that second person putting out that live camera, so we can actually get the bait lined up nice in the middle for everybody, rather than me having to go back and forth.
Yeah, with snorkel, Scuba Steve back and forth to the camera. Sir, I can't see if there's any comments. Do you see any comments there from anyone?
So I'm going to hold on. I'm just going to copy and paste my questions I had for you, because my chat with you is blocking my view of the comments. So just bear with me for like 10 more seconds as I open a Word document.
Okay.
And then I can see the chat.
Just to see if we have any questions in there. I have so and so is watching. I just want to see if anybody's got any questions for us, because I don't know, maybe something's wrong on my end. You know, technical difficulties. It's always a thing.
Okay, here we go. All right, well, so is there a big carp scene in Canada? For some reason, I've never really thought about carp fishing out there. And this is from Rod, and I won't try to pronounce people's last names because I will butcher it. So,
Okay. The carp scene is definitely growing in
yeah,
Canada, and I would say that's for a number of reasons. The first being that prior to the 1970s, common carp were looked upon as being this nuisance species, and that was even by government
yeah,
authority. But it was after the 70s, there was a couple of documents that were posted and theses that were put forward at university level that thought that common carp might be helping with quagga and zebra mussel populations. And so since then, the authorities have started to chime different tunes. So within about 2 generations, we've seen quite a change in the attitudes towards common carp. And that coupled with the fact that a lot of British anglers, both very, very popular as well as just, your Tom, Dick, and Harry coming over from the UK, they've had some incredible experiences in the Kawarthas along the St. Lawrence, down in the Toronto
yeah,
Harbourfront, so on and
yeah,
so forth. So that has helped to introduce people to common carp. And I'd say that probably even in the past 20 years, the attitudes towards common carp, we've seen an exponential growth in Canadian carp anglers. And I came in around, like, I came in after you, Galen. You were around 2010. You've also got a couple of years on me, so you have to give me
yeah,
some credit there where credit's due. But I've been an angler all my life, and my first experiences with carp were always my dad kind of talking down about them, right? And so, it was the generation after my dad, and then, it's like I am the generation under my dad. It was like the generation between me and my dad. There was like like my dad was like 30 something, so 20 years after my dad is really
yeah.
when the attitudes towards carp started to change. But grandfathered ideas, they take a little while to work their way out of the mentality of the populace. So I would say that the carp scene now in Canada, and just in the past decade, I have more people that approach me when I'm fishing, and they're just people of the public, and they're not saying, "Oh, you should kill them."
Yep.
Oh, they should be
Yep.
up on in a garbage bag. It's the best place for them. I have way fewer of those kind of
Yep.
interactions. It's very, very few now. Um, and I think that more and more people are starting to wake up and see the joy that carp fishing can bring, especially with young kids. It's not something where you have to be confined to a boat. You don't have to tell the kids, all right, you got to cast the line, and then you have to cast the line again, and then you're dealing with tangles every 5 minutes. It's like, okay, we're going to cast the rods, and now you can go play soccer, right? So,
Yep.
and then they just kick the ball nearby at a park, alarm goes off, you call the kids over, kids fight a fish. It actually keeps them engaged. It keeps them, having positive experiences. And so, yeah, I think the carp scene's growing. We've got 38, 39 million people. I don't think our carp angler population exceeds much more than a couple of thousand
Yeah.
that I
Like
know of. But
I think something too that that you've even been involved with is that you see these larger fishing TV shows in that early 2000s period and between now and then actually trying carp fishing for using European or UK gear, like
yeah,
actually taking the time to do it the way that the rest of the world does it, and televising that to the world, because a lot of that fishing media has always traditionally been seen through either magazines or fishing shows, kind of before YouTube took off, and then you're seeing more and more, I guess, North American content creators, carp anglers, actually putting it on social media. So, and along with this, the Canadian Carp Society too. So there's a lot of positive media, I think, going out there rather than negative. And I'm not seeing nearly as many negative comments on even my own posts from the general public about carp. And I think, I don't know if that's the same experience you're seeing on your own stuff as well.
yeah,
But
absolutely the same on my end too.
yeah,
Going onto our public forums, like our Fishing Ontario Multi-Species
yeah,
Facebook page, like you don't get nearly as many negative comments for sure. Um, this kind of flows well into Ian Brookman's question. So I'm going to answer that one, Ian, and
okay,
then obviously you can chime in too here. Um, It's actually, we can answer a couple of these at once, actually. Ian is saying that I'm getting the feeling that this wild carp fishing is something that I would really like. So he's saying if we were to come over there to do some fishing with you guys, what kind of paperwork would we need to make that trip happen? Well, first, you have to buy a plane ticket. No, I'm just pulling your leg in. We have here in Ontario, you can a non-Canadian resident or a non-Canadian can actually purchase a 7-day conservation or potentially a 10-day conservation. Galen, you might know that better than me. Is it a 10-day conservation?
I think they change it here and there, but it is cheap. It's cheap to get a license here.
Yeah, for as someone who's over for just a short period of time, you don't have to buy a year-long license. You can just simply buy a temporary license, a conservation license at that, and it's like probably like $30 or $40. I don't even remember now exactly. I've never had to purchase one personally, but I know that you can buy something temporary.
Yeah, last time I checked, I think it was around like 28, $32 Canadian.
Yeah, so it's dirt cheap, and it can give you access to fishing anywhere in Ontario. And if for those English people that don't know how big Ontario is, Galen and I could drive for 24 hours and still be in Ontario. And there's like 100,000 lakes in Ontario, right? It's stupid, okay? But when it comes to carp waters, especially because Ian's question is specifically about Canadian carp fishing, we do have the St. Lawrence River. It's one of the most iconic fisheries in the world. It can be very hit or miss, right? The fish can be off you for 24 hours, 48 hours, and then suddenly turn on and then never stop. Other times it can be very temperamental. I've been out to the St. Lawrence a couple of times. It's really a challenge, right? If the wind starts blowing, the river starts flowing, and the weeds start piling up, you're going to have a real hard time. But I find up this way in the Kawarthas is really, really worth it. It's, you can get on the fish pretty quickly here. There's very rarely a time where I will blank. That's a humble brag, but it's very rare that I blank. And when I do, it's generally just I ran out of time. I didn't quite get the timing of the feeding window right. And, usually a storm would push in and I could go back the next day and I could have 10 or 12 in a few short hours. So it's amazing.
What's your average size? Ian had a question on here that was like, what's the average size of fish that is being caught? So I marries with that a bit.
I would say probably about 14 to 16 pounds, Ian, so call it 15. I'd say the average used to be a lot smaller. But we had a KHV breakout back in 2007, the summer of 2007, and it killed 60 to 70% of the population in the Kawarthas, as well as like a lot of other waters along the stretch of the Trent Southern. Central Ontario, all the way down to even Trenton, Ontario. We had quite a die-off. And so because of that, I don't think the populations haven't returned to the same numbers ever since. I think it was nature's way of finding homeostasis and finding that balance. And so that average was probably about 10, 12 pounds before, and now it's about, say, 14 to 16 pounds, depending on where you are. So almost guaranteed, if you go out and you catch like 3 fish, one of them's going to probably be about 14 to 16 pounds. It's pretty much a given.
It's not uncommon to get multiple fish over 20 pounds. It's getting into those 30s that can be a little more challenging. It's usually just weeding through the numbers. Depending on the spot you go to, it can really be a runs water, and your arms end up getting tired by the time the sun goes down. So now
you're exhausted. It's like a triangle, right? It's a triangle. You got your teeny boppers down here. You got your absolute units up here. There's very few of them. There's a whole whack of them to go through. It's a traditional wild water setup, right?
Yeah.
So I got another question here, and it's from Steven. He says, how do you overcome the bait situation over there? Because I remember you guys once saying that you had a lot of restrictions and you have to use mostly plant-based. That one's on you to answer, sir.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, it is all plant-based regarding using 3 or multiple rods. So everything has to be plant-based if we're using multiple rods. If we're using 1 rod, that's where we can start using a hook bait with like a fish meal base or a insect base or something that's non-plant-based. They've changed the chumming rules, so you're free offering. That rule changed. We used to be able to, it was kind of like a gray area. So like ice fishing, we'd put minnows down the hole to kind of chum the hole, bring fish in, but they've changed it now to strictly plant-based. So we cannot use like a fish meal boilie as free offerings. within Canada. So we use a lot of particle, which includes a lot of maize, hemp, chickpeas, whatever you name it. Regarding plant-based, we've probably tried it, whatever we have access to. But yeah, it is restrictive that way, and I understand why they're trying to kind of limit anything that could threaten kind of our natural ecosystems by bringing anything in from other countries. So it's I get the reasoning for it, but yes, it does come with its challenging, because I would love to put out an insect-based bait because I know it would
Yep.
work well.
Absolutely. I think we can all agree that like if we had the access to some of the things that you guys can fish with over in Europe, um, we would probably even catch more fish than we already do, which may not be such a blessing. So, I think honestly, particle, fight me on this. I don't think particle ever restricts anyone. I think particle, especially in our wild waters where we got a lot of gravel, I find that the particle allows us, especially when we use really small particle like cracked corn, which is like a flaked maize. So they crush the maize down into like almost like a crumble. And then for you guys in the UK, look for that stuff. It's brilliant. I would say it's even better than whole corn in some applications, particularly if you're spotting. It's not great for scooping because it doesn't really go very far. It kind of slows down really quickly. But the cracked maize and white rice. Okay, it's another Mr. Muschett secret. I tell my students all the time, this is a Mr. Muschett secret. But white rice, I remember I had Matt Hayes out here in 2017, and it was turmeric and chili spice, and I put that in with my rice, my cracked corn, bit of bird seed, like a pigeon conditioner bird seed, and chickpeas, and I put that all together and stirred it up. And I left him a bucket of it, and he messaged me and he said, "White rice, eh?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "This is brilliant." He's like, "I could put a pint of maggots in that, like with a gallon of white rice, soaked in turmeric and chili powders and everything." He says, and he said it would absolutely crush for tench. It would crush for roach. He said, it's brilliant. He said you could get so much that cloudiness in the water too. He said it's absolutely perfect. So it's not restrictive, to be fair. I mean, yeah, we can't use certain hook baits. We can't be feeding with the insect-based boilies. But honestly, our carp, just based on what
No.
I've observed, they're not interested in boilies really anyway. You throw out some particle and they go bonkers
Yeah,
for it. So,
that is the big debate, right?
yeah,
You get people saying, "Oh, go boilies, go boilies, go boilies." Well, the fish don't necessarily encounter them often or at all, so getting them to recognize it as a food source can be challenging.
yeah,
For whatever reason, they love sweet corn, they love maize, whatever enzyme it gives off, sugars, carbohydrates, whatever flavor, they seem to pick up on that as a food source right away. But I've definitely experienced that with boilies, putting them out, that they ignore them completely.
yeah,
So it just depends. Having that good mix, I think, is a good thing. Having options, having different
absolutely.
flavors, bringing them in is good.
I
Uh,
think I think if you just restrict yourself to one particle, you're really doing yourself a disservice, right? Give them a buffet,
yeah,
right? Give them all the options. Give them something that's going to be leaching off oils like the hemp. If you can give them something like the bird seed that lets off the natural oils and stuff too. I think keep the stuff in there and give them many opportunities, right? Don't focus too much on carbohydrates. Get them some fibers. Get them some proteins. Try to give them an assortment so that they can keep coming back. Because you and I, we could eat a whole bag of potato chips, but I don't know if we could come back for second or third bag of potato chips. But put some beef jerky in front of us now, right? Yeah, we can have a little assortment, right? Put a pint in front of us too, and we'll have one of them as well. So I mean, all those things considered, right? You give them a smorgasbord and let them pick away at what they want, and
yeah,
then whatever you can figure out. If you can figure out what it is particularly that they want, then you can hone the hook bait on that. Um,
we got
okay, you've got some
Joe.
questions for me now,
Yeah,
right?
I
Great.
do. So let me pull those up.
And I don't know how many other
Uh,
people have been commenting because once again, I can't see anybody's comments. I'm
yeah,
so sorry, guys, if
it's
I've been
all
ignoring
good.
you.
I've
I'm so
got,
sorry.
I'm going to address one real quick. So, Rod, we will post our YouTube channels on the team page. I won't post them in the comments right now, but if you'd like to check that out, we'd greatly appreciate it. And then a real quick one, just the underwater cameras that we use, generally just action cameras and GoPros. I also have a live camera that we've converted. It was an ice fishing camera that we've converted into essentially something I can put on the bottom rather than hanging it suspended under the ice. So I can put up a post on that at some point as well. And we can always talk more underwater. We still have a little bit of time.
And hopefully
And
we've answered
then,
other questions just naturally through our
yeah,
conversation. If anybody's been asking, hopefully we've been answering them.
yeah, one question I have for you, Will, from the comments though, is have you guys tried float fishing for carp? I could say I've incidentally done it with just fishing with a worm on the river for whatever would bite and I'd catch them, but targeting them on the float, I haven't had much success just because traditionally I've fished on the bottom, but I know you've probably had lots of success using a float because you're more experimental than I have been over the years.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I love flow fishing for carp, but the thing is that when I'm flow fishing for carp, generally what ends up happening is I'll cast it out, whatever, and then I'll still put out rods in the Euro style, and eventually I just started to lose interest in trying to bring them in close enough to fish them on the margin, because our waters get deep really quick. They're natural, right? We got a lot of rivers at our disposal, and fishing the float really only works in really, really calm waters, and we get some ridiculous waves. So trying to keep afloat, like I fished the Waggler a few times and I've had some success, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great approach. I've even float fished for carp out of a boat before, which was ridiculous. They were small fish, but it was loads of fun. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great approach. It's a lot of fun. Nice minimalistic approach. You know, a couple of shot, away it goes, or a small weight, down it goes, right? And it's so cool watching that Waggler come up and then disappear. Wicked good time.
Yeah,
Wicked good
and
time.
I know Dan Ledger fished with a float this spring and had some good success because he anticipated the bites being maybe a little less intense than were normal, and he could see
Yep.
that float going down right away and strike right into them
Yeah.
before his alarm even made a noise. Okay, so going to the questions I had for you, one thing that I've always found fascinating about your fishing and what you've been able to do to get away from private access. So we have a lot of water, but a lot of it is private. So we are kind of tied to public access for our fishing, which can be challenging. Although there is a fair amount of it, there are a lot better spots through private access. So what Will has done is converted a boat into a carp fishing beast. So do you have any plans for boat fishing this year?
I do, yes. I've got some work to do though. So if you guys do check out my channel, which, you know, I appreciate all the support. I know this team has been wonderful in supporting me on my journeys, as well as Galen, all of us. We really appreciate it. I had a little 9-foot boat known as the carp fin boot. It was a 9-foot John boat. I've taken that places that a 9-foot John boat should never go. If I probably, you know, it's one of those things. If I valued my life more, maybe I would have, you know, considered some of these journeys I've been on. But yeah, I've taken that boat on some incredible adventures. And just recently, I'm going to be upgrading, but I need to kind of come up with the funds. And Christmas was a bit expensive, but I'm planning on converting. I have a 12-foot pontoon boat frame, and I have to build the decking and whatnot for it,
Right.
as well as a transom mount. And then my plan is to run this, call it about a 9 by 5 foot barge going forward. The pontoon boat is just going to be so much more stable and safe
Something
than
you can
obviously
stand
open
in.
concept. Something. Well, I can stand in the 9-foot John boat. It's just sketchy, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, indeed, the pontoon boat will just be so much more comfortable, and you know it'll be safer and easier to overnight in, which is something that I have a couple of missions in mind about overnighting on a few of the waters that I fish. But yeah, that boat has been an amazing. The boat fishing has opened up so many opportunities
Yeah.
to, you know, engage with fish that have never seen hooks before.
Yeah.
And to build that confidence, I did go to places where I have caught from shore, and you know that's how I built that confidence up that I could do it. Right, is I didn't just go somewhere fresh as a daisy. I went places where I'd caught fish before, and was like, okay, how can I set up? How can I make my boat more static? 2-anchor approach to try to stop myself from swaying, so on and so forth. Everything that I possibly could to put the odds in my favor. And then when I caught and started gaining that confidence, then I went ahead and started going to do some pretty crazy stuff, like fishing the north end of Shamong with 3-foot breakers and catching off a sandbar. That was crazy, but that was fun. Lots of fun. So yeah, hopefully that satisfies that question there, Galen. And what else you got for me?
So I've got a question in the comments that will marry up with the next one. So essentially, my question to you was, do you have any plans for your guiding business this year? But in the comment section, Cliff has said, if he was to visit Canada, what are the best months to fish for carp? And you are the best person to ask for that because you fish throughout the whole year and you guide through that whole time. So your ups and downs.
I certainly do. I would say to respond to Cliff, best time to fish for carp, at least up our way, is call it mid-May to July, beginning of July. After that, it just becomes stupid hot. And then generally it moves to a nighttime bite and a very early morning bite, and then shuts off for the rest of the day. It's really no different than it can be in the UK. Floater fishing opportunities kind of almost impossible with our waterfowl at times. The opportunities do present themselves. I have caught them off the surface before, but generally the boat traffic coupled with the bird traffic does stop it altogether. But yeah, I mean, if you were to come over here, I opened up my guide service starting in May. Fully outfitted. I have all of the rods, everything you need: rods, landing mats, nets, bivvies, you name it, bed chairs. So I can accommodate people to do overnight sessions as well. I have access to some private water as well to do that on not private water, but private property on public water. You know what I mean. Anyway, but yeah, so big plans for this year. I'm opening up my doors again. I've always been this kind of open door policy with my guide service. I'm not exclusive in any sort of way. I've got beginners who come out with me and it's their very first time carp fishing. I've got a lot of expats who are rediscovering the passion as well, which has been always a pleasure of getting someone who maybe they've been out of the UK for 20 years or something like that, and they carp fished in their youth and they're getting close to retirement and looking for something to do, and they come out with me and they get the experience and get to experience Canadian carp fishing, and they fall in love with it all over again. And that's always been such a joy for me, right? And taking out kids is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm a teacher, right? And there's just something about seeing that aha moment in a kid's eyes when they're inspired. And I've got families who come out and have been out with me, and they're going crazy. They're saying the kids won't stop talking about it. They can't wait to come back out again next year.
That's what it's all about.
It is what it's all about, man. Welcoming back those old clientele and hopefully trying to find even more clientele going forward. Love to introduce the UK boys back to carp fishing. This area where I'm living used to be a prime spot for British anglers to come over, and it would be an absolute honor to welcome all of you back. I know that some of you probably have had the experience and pleasure of fishing these waters, and I know a lot of them stopped coming over when the die-off happened, and then once again when COVID happened, but we're open for business, baby. We're back, right? And I mean, hopefully people will I'm extending the hand and saying, come on over and I can look after you. If you want to bring those few bits of kit that'll keep you comfortable, that's fine. But just know I've got enough to keep you going, right? For as long as you're here.
Yeah. And we are always open to help people. If anybody is needs to just find a location, or I know a few guys that have been coming over for the last 20 years, and essentially they've rented a cottage or an Airbnb on one of the Kawartha lakes, and they have their spots picked out where they can go to. But if I don't know if we made it a certain arrangement, maybe there's an opportunity for one of us to even bait dock or something, so it's ready to go, or I don't know, something to think about. We can at least provide that guidance to, okay, here's a good lake, here's a good cottage on that lake. If you can get corn in there for your week or 2 week stay, you're gonna catch. Essentially,
absolutely. And I mean, I offer pre-baiting services, Galen, and I also have preferred rates through my guide service. So if you come in and say, yeah, I'm here because I'll be getting Peterborough Carping Guides services, there's going to be preferred rates for you. Either for my guide service, my tutorial and guide service packages, or for the actual accommodation that you're going to be staying at, as long as I'm going to be on premises at some point. So yeah, definitely reaching out and looking out for those opportunities. I mean, it's definitely worth a plane ticket. Every British guy I've met that's come over here, some of them just came and stayed. They just said, "Yeah, I can live here. This is
Yeah.
good." Right? All those
And
crazy folks.
well, how we know a few guys that lived in Canada for upwards of 10 years, not even realizing carp were in our waters. And it was this
Our
huge,
friend
like,
Anthony over in
oh,
Saskatchewan,
really?
and now he's running
Yeah,
a guide service of his own out
yeah.
there, right? I mean, the great frontier, folks. Like, we are the final
Mm,
frontier. North America is where it's happening. You know,
yeah.
it's next to Ebro's Wild Water. I think we've got it, man. So
Well,
definitely, we're worth checking out. And there's so
and
much more to check out here other than just the fishing, man. The culture's wicked too.
yeah.
You know, lots of fun.
And, and you've even seeing anglers like Henry Lennon and Tom Wilshaw that recently just put a video out from this past year that they came actually up to the Kawarthas to fish with our buddy Paul.
My
From a,
backyard.
yeah,
My backyard.
literally
Yeah.
on, literally out back of where Will is. They rented a houseboat, found a public island, and they set up for. Kind of went from island to island, but we're able to fish for muskie, fish for bass, and a lot of their carp fishing was kind of through that night. But they were able to kind of fish for other species because the Kawarthas is loaded with. We've got muskie, we have pike, we've got walleye, we've got bass, we've got crappie, bluegill, perch. Not as big as perch as you have, so don't get your expectations up too high with those. But
And our walleye are like your Xander. If you don't know what a
yeah.
walleye is, it's very, I'd say it's the carbon copy of a Xander, just smaller.
So I
So
got, and speaking of multi-species, so Rod, yes, salmon. So if you come up during September would be a good month. From an hour drive from the Kawarthas, you can fish tributaries to Lake Ontario, loaded with salmon. If you come up during the summertime, so let's say July, August, you could always rent a charter to go out on Lake Ontario and troll for salmon. There's a bunch of different guides. It just depends on what your style of fishing is, but there are
once
those
again,
opportunities around too.
reach out to me, guys. I
Yeah.
have those connections. I can get you connected with some really good captains that are guaranteed to put you on fish. They've been doing it for eons. So I
Yeah.
got those connections too.
So we have a very
Yeah.
healthy population of coho and Chinook salmon, as well as the Atlantic that cruises around, along with steelhead, so rainbow trout and brown trout in our and lake trout in our Great Lakes.
Absolutely. All right, Galen,
s-
you're the question guy because I can't see any questions, and I know
Okay.
you got a couple more for me, and we got to wrap this up
Yes.
soon. We got to wrap this up soon. So
Yes. Aha. So Miles said, do you have a guide or a guide? Do you have a website for your guide business? So we can chuck that up on the site as well.
it's just a Facebook page. You can
On
just look
Facebook,
up
yeah.
Peterborough Carping Guides right there. Peterborough Carping Guides.
And then so that's it for the comments. And as far as my last question that I actually had for you was, I think we already kind of talked about with this year. What is your plans for just fishing in general? Are we going to do a big campaign? Because I know you've had water or spots where you could do a campaign, or are you going to jump from spot to spot? I know generally we do a lot of spot hopping, but yeah, you never know. There might be a campaign.
Yeah, I think I'm the kind of guy where I like to hop from place to place to place. I really am guilty of that, and it's the ADHD. It's also just the fact that I find new spots, and then my brain goes, "You need to try that because there might be a 40 in there." And
Yeah.
then I go there for a little bit, and then I go back to the old haunts and everything. I'm so bad at it, but I really do want to do a campaign at this swim that I kind of discovered. I wouldn't say discovered, but I got access to at the end of last year there, which would have been my last knockings video from this year.
Yeah.
My neighbors swim. They've been so gracious as to lend me access to that space, and I began fishing that like end of September, and the weeds were insane, right?
Which
But
happens to be a Kawartha Lake.
yeah, and
So,
so the weeds were right up to the surface
yeah.
for like 20, 30 yards. I found some pockets out further that were clean, but I was like, okay, let's see if we can maybe open up a spot here. It's just kind of this like carpety, drapey weed. It's not like it's thick columns with heavy stalks. It was kind of like this mossy looking thing. So I was like, if I fill with enough corn, I should be able to create a hole with the carp coming in. And sure enough, I think it was like 2 nights into the baiting campaign, the fish pushed right in. And They cleaned out it started off as a dinner plate. It turned into a small round like card table. And I was like, all right, I think it's ready. And then I started fishing it, and I had 3 fish out of it. Biggest one was 33 and a half, which is my third biggest carp of all time. So it was pretty special to have that fish as like my last fish of the year. And so like I got that ticking in the brain, but I got a couple other spots too for spring. I've got a couple of spots in town as well that aren't like it's public access, but it's really, really kind of exclusive, right? Where I know a few of the neighbors and they'll report people that they are concerned about, but they won't say anything about me because I'm friendly.
Yeah.
I'm friendly.
Yeah,
So.
and you mentioned that you're doing really well on grips chods, right? You're using the chod chod grips on chod rigs in that weeds, and it seemed to do a trick in the lake.
And I haven't fished a chod. For those of you guys who are like, I don't know about these chod things. Don't mind my Trump impersonation. I don't know about these chods. I don't know if they're any good. Let me tell you something, guys. Okay, I was skeptical. Okay, I think everybody is skeptical when they see barbless, and then you go, right? And so I thought, well, I'm fishing this excessively weedy water, and instead of thinking I want to hold on, I thought, well, if I lose a fish or a break off, I don't want this fish tagged into something for too long. So I thought, well, let's go with a barbless option. But Galen gave me a couple of grips. Bless him. He said, here, try some of these out sometime. And I thought, okay, I'll give him a go. And I hooked into a double header at that neighbor swim, and both rods going off simultaneously. I land the one, the other one's sulking in a weed bed somewhere with a chod grip in its mouth. I put the first one in the net. It's like, great, go to pick up the other rod. It's locked tight, not moving. And so I took a picture with the first fish, released that one, went back to the other rod, figuring it was it was lights out. Started pulling on it, walking backwards with the dog. Finally started feeling it let go and release, and the fish was still on. And it came all the way to the net. Minimal lip damage, as the grips have proven time and time again. And basically, I reached in the net and just pushed on the back of the eye, and the hook popped out. But he was locked in that entire time. And circumstantial, of course. Every weird little twist to the head could definitely make them drop a rig, but I'm sold, guys. I can't see myself ever buying another hook. I don't feel like there's a need. These grips are absolutely doing everything that we need here in Canada. They're tough as nails. Their geometry makes sense. I put a video up on the team page a while ago talking about how that flat cutting point stops the rig from wanting to twist like a traditional conical shaped hook would. Having that flat face resists twisting, plus the grips on the back increasing the surface area and gripping into the lip. It's grips are good, guys. Get on the grips.
I don't think we have to convince too many people on the page, but definitely I love seeing the hook pop out in the net and not even be able to figure out where I'd hook the fish.
Yeah, it's amazing when that happens. It's amazing when it happens.
Well, we got. Do you still have a couple more minutes? I know you have to get your son out the door.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I got 5 more minutes here, so if you got any more questions, I'll be happy to answer a couple more.
So Mr. Matthew Rice is being funny. Lyle's golden syrup or maple syrup, and it's maple syrup all the way. Come on over, and we will give you true maple syrup, not table syrup. There's a difference.
Right, there is. Just had it on my pancakes this morning.
We have Ian asking any troubles fishing. Any troubles with bears while we're fishing? And I know our friend Ryan Ginter has had bears around him out in Lake of the Prairies to
Bears aren't scary to me. Only if mama is there and you don't see baby, or if you see baby and don't see mama. That's when you need to be a little bit nervous. Coyotes, though, that's a story. I got chased out of a swim. It was a 10-minute walk in with a barrow, and that was going downhill. It was about a 12 to 15-minute out with the barrow, and that first night I went in there, I went in pretty late. It was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I just landed a fish and was going to relieve myself in the bush, and all of a sudden I heard yip, 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 and then I heard it all around me, and I realized I was surrounded by coyotes, and I just started loading everything on the barrel. I was grunting,
Yeah,
like trying to
your
make as
hair
much noise as
stands
I
up on
could,
the
and I'm
back of
like
your neck.
running out of there. I got out of there in like 7 minutes. I was running uphill with waders on. I didn't even want to take off my waders. I figured the more layers the better, right? But yeah, bears honestly are we have black bears around our neck of the woods, and black bears, I mean, if you make yourself big and scary, make lots of noise, they don't want anything to do with you, right? I mean, springtime is a
Yeah,
different story. They're a little bit more agitated, but by the time you get around to summer, they've got plenty to eat and they're not going to waste their energy on
yeah.
you.
Generally in our area, like where I work, we have bear sightings at our public parks, and generally a lot of it is male bears finding their new territory. So they're kind of coming down from up north, finding their range, and then they're so scared of people if there's noise, and there's generally an issue. However, if I get out, I should be getting out to Algonquin as well as Cortland Highlands this year. So that's about an hour to 4 hours north, and trout fishing and be doing some muskie fishing. So we will be staying on campsites, and we do see bears from time to time. But again, if you're making lots of noise, you're with your buddies having a couple drinks, generally they'll keep you far away from you because they want nothing to do with you, as long as you put your food away when you go to bed.
Yeah, up the tree.
Uh, so I got another one from
Okay.
Miles. What percentage of carp are mirrors? That's a good one. And do you also catch grass carp and buffalo carp in Canada? That's a great question. So I'll let
Okay.
you
Well,
go
I
off
think
the
between
first
you
one
and
with the
I, we could
mirrors.
answer that.
Yeah,
Galen, what do you say about 1% mirrors in our area?
yeah, something like that. There's
Yeah.
certain sections of the river. It seems to be that there's more. I don't
Hmm.
know the reasoning behind that, but
I
we
have
do
my
see them on
theory.
camera. Yeah.
I do have my theory. My theory is that anywhere that there's a lot of rocks, and it's really, really like a lot of, human intervention, like a lot of concrete present and whatnot too. I feel like the only
Not
mirrors we
prime
see are
spotting.
pulleys. What's that? Sorry.
Not prime spawning areas, but they spawn on
Yeah,
it
they're not
anyway.
prime spawning areas, and they're not safe for fish that have, holes in the armor, so to speak, right? So I feel like a lot of those waters we see fullies, and I have a theory that the biggest mirror carp that's going to come out of Canada is going to be a big fully because it's got the full set of scales, and
Yeah.
I think that a lot of these near leather and really, really like kind of these mirrors that we catch sometimes that have very big open spaces. I feel that a lot of them are susceptible to that damage, and
Yeah,
so
there
they
could
get
be a
they get
disadvantage for
hurt.
sure. Yeah.
It is definitely a disadvantage, especially in youth as well with predation, right? They don't have the scales to protect and to spread out that bite force. So if they get hit by something, it's a death sentence, right? But yeah, I personally have never caught a grass carp or a buffalo, but they are here in
Yeah.
Ontario. The grass carp, we're asked to kill them on capture. And the reason being is because it is one of the four Asian carp species. The Asian carp are the black, silver,
Big
grass, and
head.
big head carp.
Yeah.
Now, I've been arguing for some time that the grass carp, it's been in our waters now for over 20 years. They've been finding what are called triploid, which
Yeah.
are basically they're infertile.
Yeah.
They're kind of like mules, and they are not able to reproduce. But we've been finding them down at Tommy Thompson Park in Toronto. Dunville Dam
Dunville.
as well has
And
them.
Quinty is now seeing a lot of them.
Oh, really? Okay, I
Yeah,
heard
that
that
was
Quinny
last
had
year.
tench.
Yeah, could be. There could be
Yeah,
tension. There's lots of tension in the St. Lawrence around Quebec, but yeah, Quinny is seeing a lot of grass carp probably in the last
interesting.
couple of years. I've been seeing a lot of posts about it, and those are not the triploid. So they're here. We have a lot of food for them because we have a lot of invasive plants.
And I'll tell you what, I'm not worried. I'm generally not worried. I'm genuinely not worried about the grass carp. Silver carp's a different story. Then we would have a serious problem. But I think the grass carp, I think it'll just find balance pretty quickly. The tench too, like the tench have been here for 30 or 40 years now, and
Yeah.
they're only just being found outside of where they were originally introduced. So, truth be told, I don't think we have too much to worry about there.
No.
But I think I
And
got
as
time for maybe one more question here, buddy. So, we got
okay.
anything else from the people?
Uh, I guess the only thing with buffalo, you're looking at southern Ontario where you're going to find
Oh, yes.
buffalo, and that is not smallmouth buffalo you see in Texas. It's the other one. But it is one of our biggest native Who knows? Uh, or suckers. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It's a part of the Moxostoma family. It's between them and the copper red horse are our biggest sucker species.
Okay. There is no more questions. So why don't we cut
Really?
it off here? Because I know you and I could talk for hours.
Oh, yeah. Stay on the script, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well,
yeah, I guess the biggest thing is if anyone ever has any questions, both Will and I are very personable. By all means, message us whenever you want. We're more than happy to answer any questions you have about our fishing, about anything and everything. Just by all means, reach out either on the team page or through Messenger. And I guess Instagram, YouTube, whatever. We're around.
I don't know what they told you about the Canadians, but we're really nice. You know, so yeah, if you guys ever have any questions for Galen or I, we'll be sure to drop our links and stuff. I'll make sure Galen does that. I have to run. I have to go and take my son to meet up with his mom, feel the joys of shared parenting. But I hope that you guys, hope this finds you well. I hope that you're all getting out there and exploring your waters, because winter obviously provides many unique opportunities. And, you know, you can't catch them sitting on the couch. So get on out there. As I say that, sitting at home and not fishing because I hate ice fishing.
We can talk about ice
but all the
fishing
best.
next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
one day you're going to get me out there. I know, Galen, I know. But anyway, you guys take it easy, and we will be sure to stay in touch with you guys. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to do another Team Canada takeover. And until next time, tight lines.
All right. Take care, everybody.